Hello, welcome to Seed Yoga Therapy's YouTube channel. I recently wrote a blog on the Serenity Prayer and how to cultivate acceptance of the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And as I was talking about the piece about wisdom, that discernment process between what I can change and what I can't change, I talked a little about cultivating the witness consciousness. And I want to talk a little bit about that because, again, even that has some discernment with it as well. So, a lot of times people ask, what is the difference between witnessing something and dissociation? Because in some ways they can look similar. And I just want to flesh out a little bit about how I think about these things. So, when we're in a dissociative state, we can feel very disconnected from the body. For some people, it can be a flashback where we're actually in a different time and space, or we can feel floating, or it's hard to feel the body, or it's hard to be in the body, or there's a kind of a separation. Now, when we're talking about witness consciousness, which is this observer that watches the experience as it unfolds in this very present state, that there is a bit of a space there. So with dissociation and with witness consciousness, there's a space between the experience and the ability to either watch it or to dissociate from it. And so dissociating is when we're leaving the experience because the experience is so unsafe that it is a safety mechanism to shut down and to leave the body, the awareness. And so it's a really brilliant survival tool. But it's very different than witness consciousness. And so when we're in the witness consciousness, it's extremely present. And so just to give an example, so if I'm having some physical pain in my body and it gets to be so overwhelming and so intense that I cannot handle it, there can be a dissociation where I almost detach from the bodily experience. And there's lots of ways people describe this. It can feel kind of buzzy or numb, or people actually feel like they leave their body and they can watch their body from above, but they're not in it anymore. Whereas if I have some physical pain and I'm witnessing it, I can experience it and I can observe it at the same time. I'm not leaving it. I'm actually being very present with it, but I'm not embroiled with it. So when I'm really kind of stuck in something, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm in pain. And I've been there, right? I've had difficult, painful moments where it feels like it is all consuming. And in some ways that's quite the opposite of dissociation, of I'm very, very in the experience. When I have that witness consciousness, I can have that experience of pain, but I can hold it kind of in this experience of softness, kindness, objectivity, where I'm just going, yeah, you're in pain. It hurts. And I can be with it. It's almost like there's this part of me that can be with the pain as this loving friend, kind, compassionate being. And so that is what I consider the witness. Whereas if I'm in this pain and it's so overwhelming, it's so intense, and I would do anything to get rid of it. Dissociation is I'm out. I'm leaving. It's safer to me to be far, far away from it and to not even feel it in any way that I possibly can. So I leave the situation. Witnessing, we're very close to it, even though we're not part of it. We know that we are experiencing it, but we also know that there's another part of us that can observe it and watch it with compassion and kindness. Dissociation is also compassionate and kind because it's also a survival tool of saying, this is way too much and I don't know how to deal with it, so I'm going to leave, right? And so it's a leaving rather than a staying with, but having space. So I don't know if that makes sense, but we're going to put it into just a little bit of a practice. and practicing with the witness consciousness. And for some people, especially if they're wired, there's more, they kind of default to dissociation. Sometimes witness consciousness will kind of veer into dissociation. So again, it's kind of dipping your toe in and practicing this. So we'll just do a little bit of a practice here. So just find any position you want to be in. You can sit, you can lie down, you can stand, you can walk. And we're going to try to start with some neutral, potentially neutral sensations rather than either big in either direction, whether pleasant or unpleasant. So if you bring your hands together, if you can feel the sensations of your hands together, and if your hands are particularly charged in this moment, pick something else. You could put a hand on your shoulder, you could put a hand on your elbow, you could put a hand on your cheek. Let's find something that feels relatively neutral or quiet. And as you bring your hands together, or you have your hands on some other part of your body, feel, as much as possible, feel the direct sensation of pressure. So my hands are pressing lightly together. Temperature, they're warmer where they're touching than they are on the outside. Like this part of my hand is cooler than the other part, the inside of my hand. That's what I'm trying to say. I can feel that there's space between my palms. And now, as if you could take a step back and observe the sensation of your hands touching each other. And so even with the language that we use, that can start to cultivate the witness. So when I say cooler and warmer, or touching or not touching, that has this more objective quality than the outside of my hands are bad because they're cold and the insides of my hand are good because they're warm. I do have a preference. I have a preference for the warmth over the cold. But the witness is this completely objective part that just simply observes coolness, warmth, space. And now, again, just to kind of explore this a bit, I want you to think about what's on your grocery list. What do you have to do later today that maybe you're either looking forward to or you're not, but something that's on your list? Oh yeah, I have to pick up the kids, or I've got to go to the pharmacy. And so as you kind of leave your experience with almost an intentional dissociation, right? So we've got our hands here, but we're thinking about, okay, I've got onions on my list. I've got to pick up some yogurt. Oh yeah, I forgot I have to go, I have to make that, I have to shoot that email off before. So we're intentionally sort of dissociating. What did you notice in your hands when you were thinking about the groceries, the errands? I wasn't thinking about my hands. Now come back to your hands. Witness the experience of your hands. Maybe your arms are getting a little tired from being here for a while now. Notice the tired. Can you give space for the tired? Is the temperature changed? Is there a desire to move the hands? Are they enjoying being still? Okay, and then one more time, we're going to intentionally leave. So again, go back to yesterday. What's something that you did yesterday that is kind of sticking in your awareness? So it might have been a conversation that you had, either pleasant or unpleasant. It might have been a TV show that you watched that was impactful. It might have been something in the news that is painful, that you're still contemplating, thinking about. And as you go into whatever that thing was, what are you aware of in your hands when you were doing that? Okay, and then one more time, come back to your hands or wherever you're touching. And now that you've been here for a little while, just notice what feels the same than when you first brought your hands together, what feels different. Observe the hands. And you can even witness dissociation. So that's kind of another level to this, which we won't go too much into. But I would say if your hands feel numb, or it's hard to feel your hands, or the only way you can feel them is by really activating them. So if you're feeling like it's difficult to feel, can you witness that too? Can you be present with that of, oh gosh, my hands are pressing together, but I can't actually feel them. Or I can feel my pinkies more than I can feel my ring fingers. And so you can even notice where there's more awareness and more presence, and where it's hard to access that. And you can witness that too. And so it can bring the sense of presence and space to whatever is unfolding in the body and the mind, whether it is presence and sensation, or it's leaving and dissociation or numbness, or however you want to describe that. So, as I always like to invite you, if you have any observations that you were aware of when we kind of went back and forth between witnessing and leaving the present moment, I'd love to hear what you observed, whether that was something you observed in your body, in your mind, in your breath, mentally, emotionally. And so thanks for watching, and thanks for exploring with me, and I look forward to hearing what you discovered.